All right, Mike, let's talk about a book. Let's talk about a visual book. Let's talk about a book with a bunch of pictures in it. Are you ready?
This could be the worst audio podcast ever, but
You know,
yeah.
I thought that too, but before we go there, we need to talk about follow up. So, would you like me to go first, or do you want to hit your follow up first? Doesn't
You can
matter
go
to me.
first. That's cool.
Okay. I'm supposed to talk to Katie about crafting commerce. I didn't do this.
Come on.
I know I totally forgot. I'm really sorry. I'll put it into my to do list, and I'll actually remember to do it next time.
Okay.
I had to think about transitions between characters and roles. I think one of the ones that I thought of was really utilizing. I think I brought it up on the last episode. Is really utilizing that car time well, and being more intentional about that car time, and not just throwing in a podcast and just kind of vegging out, or throwing in an audiobook and just kind of vegging out, but actually like debriefing and processing in that car time. So to help me switch through those characters and those roles. I can tell you that there's another time that I have to think more about, and I wasn't able to figure out a good routine for this one. And that's me. Like, so I get up early and I work early in the morning, and then the boys come down, and they all have like a light or whatever, and they can come down at the same time. Well, they all basically flood down when it's their wake up time. And the transition between like me thinking hard and working, and then them just like piling on, yeah, I got to figure that one out, because I'm just not as good at, like, I need to give myself 10 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever to figure out a way to transition that better. So that is one that I need to work on better. Plan the Sunday 6-ish with Katie. We have not had time to even remotely think about this. So I have not had a chance to even address this one. It's a big failure. It's a gigantic red X. And then what does one spin cycle look like? Again, did not have time to look at this. There's a reason why. I'm gonna like try to defend myself here for a second. There's a reason why, Mike, that I didn't have time to do any of this, or I didn't take the time to do any of this. I hope to explain it to you during the rest of this episode, but there is a valid reason why I'm so bad on my follow-up items this week. So,
Okay.
Mike, what about you? What are your follow-up items?
I also am bad at my follow-up items. I was bad at being productive in general over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to blame my Black Friday Cyber Monday sale because I ended
Mm-hmm.
up sending like 12 emails. But I put a ton of work into it, so people didn't receive 12 emails. And I created like 5 different offers, but they only got the one that was appropriate for them. It's a
Yeah.
bit of kit automation magic that I pulled off over this last weekend. But it took a
Nice.
lot of work and a lot of testing because I really didn't want to mess it
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So that being said, my pre-post work routines. This one is in progress. My vision for this is that I really have a solid shutdown routine where I close the door to the office and I don't think about work anymore the rest of the day. That hasn't happened yet because I am still trying to figure out how a new app fits into this potentially.
Okay.
I've been messing around with an app called lazy.so. And it's sort of like I think it will fill, like Cal Newport talks about the working memory.txt. It's sort of like a scratch pad for things. You can kind of go crazy with it and use it as a note-taking app and do tasks and journaling and all that kind of stuff in there. That's not how I'm envisioning using it. I'm envisioning using it with a quick keyboard shortcut to just jot something down that's top of mind. And then I have the today's note basically there, and I process all that stuff before the day is over. And I just haven't built up the muscle memory yet of putting the things in there. So by the time the end of the day comes and I look at it, I'm like, oh, there's nothing in here. So I think this is gonna long term be a fit, but I have to pay more attention to it and be serious about it, basically.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense.
I guess that kind of ties in with rethink my transitions as well, although that was a broader one. I don't really, I didn't really make a whole lot of progress on this one. One of the things that I want to do with transitions is I want to start going to the co-working space more often, because there's a 15-minute car ride on the way there and a 15-minute car ride on the way back. That is beautiful for my transitions and creating boundaries for how many hours I work. Because I am more productive when I am there and I don't have the distractions and I can't just go do something else. The problem for me has been that I'm in the middle of the Creator Business Accelerator and I have those live sessions and I end up doing those a couple times a week. So I can't do those from my shared office. I probably could if I really wanted to. I don't want to, though. This is where my command central is, right here in my home office. Like, this is the place I'm most comfortable doing that. And because I have a couple of those Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the middle of the day, and then Focus gets recorded on Tuesdays, I have not been able to make it down to the co-working space very much. Yeah. I think I was there for a couple of hours once this week, and that was it. So more progress to be made there. Set boundaries for how many hours I work. The boundaries have basically been the kids have stuff. So I have to be done working today, for example, by 4 p.m. because I have to take them to an indoor soccer game. That's probably not great for boundaries. I should establish some better boundaries, but that is where we're at. So I think you could give me a big red X on that one.
Yeah. Understood. It was not a good week for follow-up items, but then I can't remember when we recorded the last episode. Was that before Thanksgiving? Right before? During Thanksgiving?
I think so.
I don't remember. Holidays just. Oh, it was because you were in Door County. Yeah. Yep. So it was definitely during holidays. So, all right, we'll be better at follow-up items next time. Maybe
theoretically,
hopefully. Yeah. In theory, we will. Let's talk about today's book. Today's book is called "Sketch Your Mind: Nurture a Playful and Creative Brain." It's by Zsolt Viczian.
Is that how you say his name?
That is. And do you know how I know that? Is because I have watched a lot of his YouTube videos.
Okay.
A lot of his YouTube videos in the last 2 weeks. This is partially why my follow-up items did not get done very well, Mike, because I thought to myself, I'm going through this book. Oh, sorry. Look at you. You got me all distracted and you got me all on a tangent. First, Sketch Your Mind. It's about visual thinking. And it's about how do we take visual thinking and kind of combine it with zettelkasten and mind maps and concept maps and all of these things. So I'm super jazzed to hear you talk about how he describes mind maps and concept maps, because you are the mind map guy. Like, you make mind maps for every one of the books that we do, right? So I'm excited to hear you say that. But before we get there, see, look, you got me off on such a tangent, man. All right, we've got 11 chapters. So we've got 11 chapters. We've got a manifesto at the beginning. We've got a kind of a little side thing. We've got an epilogue. What I think is the most interesting part about the general nature of this book is he wrote it in like 6 weeks. He did a challenge on his visual thinking YouTube channel, and he's like, let's see if I can write a book in 6 weeks. And it was like prior to, I think, a visual thinking conference that they were putting on. And he had this insane turnaround. And it
was the PKM Summit, which is, I believe, in the Netherlands.
There you go.
If it wasn't in the Netherlands, I would totally be there. I've seen people share about this on social media the last couple of years. I'm like, I really want to go. I really don't want to fly to the Netherlands.
Yeah. Although I've heard the Netherlands is awesome. So
yeah,
I mean, if you need to,
just international travel, not my thing.
Yeah, I got it. So I think it's wild, though, that he wrote this in 6 weeks. I do think there are things you can tell, that were written in 6 weeks. I think the other thing that's important to mention at the front of this book is he talks at the end of the book about how he used AI a lot to help him with the writing of this book. And I love that he tells us that. Like, I love that he's like, hey, I'm engaging with AI as I write the book. And by no means did he say, AI, write me an 11-chapter book on visual thinking and blah, 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 blah. He was like, it almost sounded when he was describing it like it was a conversation partner, that he had this conversation partner and he was using it. And it was just really cool to see a product produced that, the author used AI thoroughly with that. So I thought that was pretty neat. I was pretty excited about that. Anything general you want to talk about with the book?
Well, the fact that he wrote it in 6 weeks reminded me of another action item I should report on.
Oh, yeah, you should.
I was going to write a book in November. I made good progress on that, by the way, but I decided that I'm not going to write this book yet. What I'm going to do instead is work with the signature framework person to dial that in before I publish it in a book.
Okay. Okay.
I had a call yesterday with her. Her name is Charlotte, and it went really well. And kind of as I'm talking through things, is mentioning, I'm planning on doing this book, but I'm not. I figure, if I'm going to write this book, I should probably have some sort of visual to attach to it. And just through the whole process, we figured out that the PKM stack is really the thing that is like my signature framework. So that's the one that has to be done first. And then like whatever else I'm going to talk about has to tie into that.
Got it.
And the PKM stack, like it's there, I use it, but I don't think it's real effective. So going to work on that, then come back to the book. But I think I ended up writing maybe 15, 20,000 words total. Like it wasn't,
that's awesome.
It wasn't nothing, but I kind of lost a little bit of momentum and I couldn't really figure out why until I had that call with Charlotte, and it's like, yep, this is it.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. I mean, that's a quarter-ish of the book, right? A quarter to a third of the book, which most are, I think what they say is like 60,000 to 80,000 words is most nonfiction type books.
So getting back to the question you asked me about the visual thinking and all that kind of stuff, I really like that whole premise. You referred to me as the mind map guy. I'm not sure I've earned that title. Okay. However, I will say I do have a much more strict definition of mind mapping than he does in this book. This book is interesting. It combines a whole bunch of different concepts, puts them under a label of visual zettelkasten, which makes me extremely uncomfortable. But I think there's some really good stuff in here, and I'm kind of curious to see where this conversation goes.
Why does it make you uncomfortable? I'm really intrigued at why that makes you uncomfortable.
Well, because zettelkasten has never really clicked for me. Like there's a lot of stuff in A System for Writing by Bob Dotto, which I really like, and I've kind of morphed my own system for creating things.
Yeah. And
you could make the argument that I do a form of zettelkasten, although zettelkasten purists would be like, no way, that what you do is actually zettelkasten because you don't do X, Y, Z. And that's kind of the way I feel about mind mapping as he describes it here. He's like, mind map, just a couple steps. No, there's so much more to it. I'm not going to go Tony Buzan on you and, really say what you're doing is completely wrong, but I feel like it's an oversimplification of these things. And then it combines together into a package, which I have fallen on my face trying to apply over and over and over again. So I feel like the whole idea behind sketching your mind, nurturing a playful and creative brain, that should be like catnip to me. And I found myself resisting a lot of this stuff that's in the book, the way he describes it. But that's probably just me. And like I said, I do think there's a lot of great stuff in here. So kind of curious to see where this conversation goes.
Okay, so the first two things I want to talk about before we get to chapter 1 is introduction, and I think the best way for us to do this book is just go chapter by chapter. Before we get there, though, I want to describe how he unpacks the book. So there's visuals all through this book. So early in the book, he gives us a visual diagram of the way the book flows, and in this visual diagram, chapter 1 stands alone. Then there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that flow through there, and he calls this the foundations of visual thinking. Then there's 6, 7, and 8, which are the navigation and emergence. Then there's 9 and 10, which is building through loops, and then 11 is basically the go get them, go get them, tiger. Go use this stuff and unleash the genie is the way he describes it. So there's that. But before he even does that, he has a manifesto. So knowledge is meant to be seen, shaped, and set free. Ideas deserve to be seen. Text and visuals are equal partners. Stop filing, start thinking. He's got this idea that unpacks all the stuff he's going to unpack in the rest of the book. And again, he has it as a visual for us, right? So there's this picture of this visual nature, this visual manifesto. I like the way he does this in terms of prepping us for the next 11 chapters and saying, like, here we go. We're going to get started. Here are all the things I'm going to talk about. I thought it was an engaging way to do that. You're smirking. I would love to know why you're smirking and what you're smirking about.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I don't know. I just am jumping to the end in my mind, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, like the whole idea of 4D zettelkasten is one that I really want to unpack, but we're not quite there yet. So I'll hold the powder on that one.
Okay. All right. So you just want to hold until we get to chapter 1, which we're going to go to right now?
Let's do it.
Okay. Chapter 1, a new paradigm for thinking. So in chapter 1, his goal is to introduce this idea of 4D PKM, 4D thinking. And he starts it off by thinking we think in spirals. We don't think in circles, which is why we get frustrated with thinking. 1D PKM, he says, is sequential, one word at a time. It relies on memory. 2D, this is like he calls out the para method, okay, from Tiago Forte. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So the para method, which is, I can't even remember what it is. Resources, areas.
Projects.
I can't remember what the...
Yeah.
Projects. Yeah. Okay. So then he says that relies on memory. Then you have 3D, which is interconnected notes, maps of content, graph views. Then you have 4D, and this is where he's starting us off. 4D, spatial structure and seeing our notes. So essentially making a visual of all of our notes and then making a visual of the connection between those notes. So it's taking 3D and it's amping it up and making sketches for everything. His whole goal is something I think, Mike, you've talked about this, right? The map is not the compass kind of thing, the map is not the territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So you get this idea. As he said, most of our note-taking systems are meant for archiving. Sorry, most of our text-based note-taking systems are meant for archiving. He thinks we need to make a structured map, and we need to have this developed as a map to work us through visually through this. I don't really have a strong opinion on this idea. I don't really care about the 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D. I think the premise behind thinking more visually is good. I like that. That resonates with me. Chapter 1 lands. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So the 4D PKM idea, I agree with it in theory, but it never sat well with me throughout the book. And I really didn't figure out why until the end. And I think it's because he's got a very specific way that he's recommending you integrate those visuals to see how the ideas fit together, which on the one hand, I don't blame him for taking that approach. You got to give people something. Otherwise, they're just going to be like, oh, this is too conceptual. I don't know how to actually do this. So I think actually, for someone coming new to this idea, probably the method that he shares about, one side is the picture, the other side is the text, and then mapping things out on the canvas, like you mentioned, with like the different directions and what those mean, that's actually probably pretty good advice. But having made thousands of mind maps at this point, it's a little bit different structure. And then I've been playing around with Canvas and Obsidian, but I don't use it to the extent that he uses it. So he's definitely the expert when it comes to this. He knows way more about this than I do. But my whole experience of sketch notes and mind maps and things like that, which fit very cleanly under the Sketch Your Mind title, don't fit cleanly into the sort of a system that he's describing here.
Okay.
So I'm left in this weird space, just me personally. It's like, was everything that I've been doing a lie? Should I be embracing visual zettelkasten? Or because this is working for me, should I continue to do this? And if he were here, he would probably say, just do what's working for you.
I think
if there's one tiny thing from everything that I share in this book that you can apply, then go ahead and do that. And I do have some action items from this book specifically. So I think there's, jumping to the end, I guess, I think there's a lot of value in wrestling through this. But I did have to wrestle through it.
Okay.
Because it's not a long book. It's a very visual book. There's a lot of stories in this book. So in terms of like the number of words that are written, it was hard for me to wrap my head around it in a way like, what do I actually do with this?
Okay, we could not be more different on this, Mike. This is amazing because I drank this book in like the best tasting beverage you've ever had in your life. Like this book, I mean, I know we're getting to the end, but it's like this hit so well with me and so hard with me that I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." Let's take a step back though, because you said a thing that I meant to do when I introduced the book. Do you know what Zsolt did or does? Like, do you know Excalidraw? Like, do you know that he is the developer of Excalidraw, and Excalidraw is essentially, I think you might have said this, it's essentially Obsidian Canvas on steroids. Like,
Yes.
it's just the like crazy amped up version of Obsidian Canvas.
And he also has Excalibrain, which is very like a version of Excalidraw that lets you flip the cards and follows the exact format he's describing in this book.
Correct. And I never could get a grasp on Excalidraw. Like I always liked it. I liked the idea of it. I was like, oh, this thing has so much power. And then I would try to use it, and I would just be like, ugh, I don't get it. Like I can't make it work the way I want it to, and whatever it is. And it wasn't until like he started unpacking things in, I don't know what chapter we're gonna get to, and I was like, oh. Excalidraw makes total sense to me now. I completely understand how I would use Excalidraw, or how I can use Excalidraw in the way I process and in the way I work. Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that the author of this book developed essentially a program that relies on Obsidian, that thinks through, or that helps you visualize your notes and visualize your thinking.
Well,
let's go.
Excalidraw, I think, does not rely on Obsidian, but there's the plugin that brings Excalidraw into Obsidian.
Because he has the whole web platform, the whole Excalidraw web platform. So you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's correct. Are you ready to move on to chapter 2 in part 1?
Yeah, let's talk about Lego.
Yeah. So chapter 2 is going to be Lego. He bundles all of these into the idea of foundations of visual thinking. So chapter 2 is Lego, chapter 3 is Notes Reimagined, chapter 4 is Visualizing Concepts, and chapter 5 is Mapping the Mind. Lego, his essential whole point here is, just like Lego bricks that we can put together and then take apart and put together in a new arrangement and take apart and put together in a new arrangement, we can do the exact same thing with our thinking and with our notes and with our ideas. We can put those together in certain ways. So it gets to the idea of like atomic notes here. And I don't remember if he says atomic notes in chapter 2, but that's essentially what he's getting to. Is he's saying your Lego pieces, your visuals, are your atomic notes. That way we can put them together in whatever way we want to put them together. He introduces 4 visuals here for what he calls playful thinking. You have your icon, then you have your concept, then you have your integrated idea board, and then you have your storyboard. I'm not going to tell you that I fully understand in his mind the difference between integrated idea board and storyboard, but what I will tell you is I've got icon, I've got concept. I'm going to call concept atomic note. So I've got icon, I've got atomic note, and then I've got a board that connects things. I think this is a cool way to do this. This makes sense to me. I think if I was going to back this into a text format, I would say I have my sentence, I have my group of sentences that tell a concept, and then I have my paragraph or my map of content or whatever it is that is my connected ideas together into a more formal writing. That's the Lego version in the writing world. But this is basically what he's saying. He has a visual thinking process loop: create, connect, refine, and then repeat. And he says we should just do this over and over again. So that's chapter 2. What do you think? What do you got out of this one?
Well, I love the idea of the mental Lego bricks. I mean, that is literally what I teach in my practical PKM hybrid cohort, with the whole idea, the ideas level of the PKM stack. I've got a different process or framework for developing those ideas with the creativity flywheel, but we're talking about a lot of the same things here.
Mm-hmm.
So he and I are cut from the same cloth with this. I love the point that he makes about the structured rules of Lego are what allow boundless play. He shared an exercise. I don't know if this was one that he did or if it was just one that he was sharing that other people have done. But the Lego duck exercise, where you've got the 7 bricks and you ask someone to put them together and make a duck. I think that's a really cool way to get people moving with this sort of thing. Because a lot of people think, well, I just need, the right pieces. I need more pieces. And no, actually, you need less. You need some constraints around things. And that's what unlocks things a lot of times. He talks about how too much freedom can be paralyzing. I like the idea where he talks about the visual notes work better when they're based on those standard sizes. But I don't like the idea of just laying out, 1x1, 2x2, 4x4 bricks on a canvas. Maybe I need to try that. Maybe I need to give it a shot. But I do really like the idea of building a system of reusable visual elements. That is exactly what I have done in GoodNotes for my sketch notes.
Yep.
So I have sorry, go ahead.
I just want to affirm what you're saying. I agree with the 1x1, 2x1, 2x2. That doesn't resonate with me, and I've spent a bunch of hours making visuals at this point. It doesn't resonate with me either. That just is too constraining to me. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I affirmed that.
The other thing with this with GoodNotes, like the creating the library of visual elements, that triggered a couple of things for me. So when I do sketch notes, I literally have, they call it a collection in GoodNotes, where once I draw one visual element, I basically save that icon so I can use it again. About once per sketch note, I will create something new visually, but otherwise I'm reusing elements that already exist. And at first I was like, that's kind of cheating. But the more I've done it, the more I realize, no, because I'm still having to go through the same process. Somebody said this thing, I want to represent this visually. What am I going to do to represent it visually? Yep. And then I go find the thing and I put it in there. So I think you kind of get the same result. But also I remember going through, I think it was the Sketchnote workbook by Mike Cory. He's got 2 books, and I think it was the second one where he has a whole bunch of space in the back of the book for creating your own icon library for when you're doing sketch notes. And he's literally like, draw the icon for a book, draw the icon for a tree, draw the icon for pizza, draw the icon for phone. And then by doing it once, you have this library that you can draw from, and you just do it again. If you're doing it analog with a pen and a piece of paper. With GoodNotes, you can just select it, drop it in, resize it, whatever. But all of those elements, I feel like there's value in creating them the first time.
Yep, I agree completely. In his version of this, he references like flat icon, or he references going to an AI and have it generate the different icons that you want as a way. There is also part of the part of the Obsidian Excalibur plugin is there's a library resource that you can pull libraries in to have like standard icons. Now, what I'll tell you about that, if you're interested in doing that, it's a lot of like development from the programming side. So there's a lot of like customer maps and, canvases and those type of things. But there's still some other good stuff there that I've used. Mike, are you ready to go to chapter 3, Notes Reimagined?
Let's do it.
I think this might be one of the most important chapters of the entire book. And because in this chapter, he talks about this idea of hybrid notes and this idea that you can flip the note over, and I have the visual on the front end, then I have all the detail on the backside. I have the visual on the front end and all the detail on the backside. This, for me, changed the way I thought about zettelkasten, and I don't know if that means it removes it from what zettelkasten actually is. And if it does remove it from what zettelkasten is, I don't really care. I'm totally okay with that, because he's going to call this visual zettelkasten, and he's going to have these hybrid notes that have visual on the front and then text on the back. But that allows my brain to condense appropriately on the front and then have the detail on the back. And I don't know why that works so well with the way my brain works, because I can then see the connections on the high level and then dig into the deeper stuff if I want to. So he'll make a statement here and he'll say visual connections first, then detailed nuance on the back. Great. Like I'm totally in. He has a diagram where he basically shows sketch notes, traditional documents, digital whiteboards, and then he shows hybrid notes going across all 3 of those, like kind of horizontally across. So the sketch notes, traditional doc, and whiteboards are vertical. Hybrid notes go across all 3 of those, and he shows you how a hybrid note combines all 3 of those things into the one. I think if you don't get this, I think the rest of his system kind of explodes. Like it just kind of blows up. And he's got videos on it, these notes and how to make these notes and why they're valuable. Now, the challenge I have with it, and I know I'm going long here, but I really think this is the most important chapter of the whole book. The mechanics of doing this in an app like Obsidian with Excalidraw are not the most straightforward mechanics that have ever existed in the world. It took me a little while to figure out like, oh, this is actually how you would do this. And this is the workflow. And this is how you do it. And then you don't like mess yourself up. So I can't imagine trying to do this in something that isn't an actual piece of paper that I can turn over. So like you think about it in GoodNotes, like I would have you can't really do this in GoodNotes. You can't flip the page over in GoodNotes. You can just have another page that's like right after it. I don't know how you do this in something that's not Excalidraw or not an actual piece of paper, but I love the idea. Like I think the idea unlocked a lot of stuff for me in my head.
And this is where he loses me for that very reason.
Okay.
So the idea of having a note card that you have a visual on one side and text on the other, I agree. Like that's powerful. That makes a lot of sense. But then how do you implement that? You have to use really Excalibrain in order to do this sort of thing. That's additional functionality that you're adding to Obsidian at this point, right? Because you've got the note, and you can put all that stuff in the note, but you can't flip the note over and see the visual associated with it. I mean, I guess you could do cover view and bases or something like that.
No, you can. So basically, it's the word you hate. It's the transclusion word that you hate. So what you can do is you have the visual on the front side of it, and it's actually an Excalidraw front end.
Yep.
Then you can flip it to Markdown on the back, and that's essentially the back of the note. So now you're reading it as Markdown, and then you can embed the front end in that section. You can embed the visual from the front in that section.
But that flipping mechanism isn't in Obsidian by default, right?
No, it is. Well, sorry, it's in Excalidraw. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, sorry.
So now you're locked into Excalidraw, and that's fine if you're committed to the system. But I've tried to commit to a system that was very prescriptive like this before. It's called zettelkasten, and I've failed at it multiple times. Why? I don't know, because every time I look at it, I'm like, it makes sense. Bob Dowdle makes a very compelling case for this in a system for writing. He makes it more approachable than it has ever been, and I still fall on my face doing this. Does that mean that I am a failure as a developer of ideas? No, it does not. But that's how you feel when the prescriptive system does not work. So that has happened to me multiple times with zettelkasten. We're now talking about visual zettelkasten. He's using visuals in a little bit different ways than I would be using them. And he's prescribing this system, and all I'm hearing in the back of my head as I'm going through this is warning, warning, warning. There be dragons. And that could be completely unfair. That could be completely unfair. But that's just like the emotional reaction that I had going into this, because I want to be able to take my notes if I decide that Obsidian no longer works for me, take them somewhere else, have all my plain Markdown, and be able to make something with them. And one of the traps that I think people fall into when it comes to making something of your notes and ideas is that if you don't follow the system, there is zero value there for you. It's either pass or fail, and it's not. There is a lot of elements that you can apply from the things that he talks about in this book, which I do. I sketch note, I mind map, I create these canvases. I'm not going all the way with like the compass that he talks about and the idea integration boards and things like that. To me, that's a scaffolding that he has created, which allows these things to click for him. And if you are the person where that allows it to click for you, I see you waving your hands over there, Corey Hickson.
That's me.
Then this is fantastic.
Yes.
But for everybody else, there is nothing wrong with you. if this doesn't work.
I agree. I could not agree with you more. Like, I mean, I hope if Zsolt ever listens to this, I hope he realizes there's at least one other person in the world who thinks like he does and it finds this incredibly valuable, and it like not blew my mind, but like it like opened up this idea of like, oh my gosh, things connect in a way that they've never connected. I did have the same concern. It wasn't as like warning like you're describing. I did have the same concern. I was like, I don't really want to hitch my wagon to Excalidraw just in case something blows up with Excalidraw. But man, it just works so well that I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. Like I'm just gonna see how this works.
Let me say, Excalidraw is an amazing plugin. I think it's the most downloaded plugin in the Obsidian community plugins directory. I looked yesterday; it was like almost 5 million downloads, and he updates it like every couple of days. If there is one plugin I am not worried about disappearing, it is Excalidraw. But still, tying it to a specific community plugin feels a little bit weird to me, and ultimately it just doesn't fit for me. But the more important point, if there was only one person who thinks exactly this way, he still should have written this book. I am glad that he did it. And honestly, I would love to have him come give a presentation on this in the library, because there are different people who approach these things in different ways, and you have to find what clicks for you. So everything that I am going to share from my perspective is simply my perspective.
Yep. That's great. Okay, we have to move. We're gonna go to chapter 4. So in chapter 4, he establishes a 7-step visualization process. Articulate the message, list the keywords, pick an illustration type, look for inspiration, use, link, and think icons, make cognitive loops, and then practice. So I could give or take this 7-step visualization process. It was valuable to think through, just kind of the way he did it. I didn't get a ton out of that, but the 2 points that he did make that made more sense to me in this chapter: a strong visual concept does 2 things. It transforms and it connects. So I like these 2 ideas, these 2 high-level ideas. We are going to make a visual that transforms our thinking in some way. It's going to not make it more difficult, not make it more challenging. And this is my biggest problem with text-based notes. I don't transform text-based notes naturally. I know I should. I know that people have processes for this. You do your first round of highlights, then you go through and you make your like things, and then you do summaries and you do all this stuff. I don't do that. I've read enough books at this point. I've studied enough subjects at this point. I've done enough. I'm not going to do that. I'm not that guy. I'm going to highlight. I'm going to check the box. And I'm going to say, yay. I don't transform. Boom. It's the second one, the connection idea. I know that we've read Bob Dotto's book. I know that I've studied zettelkasten all over the place. I've looked at all this. In a text-based format, I just don't care. I'm not going to go make those connections. And it's really bothered me as we've made Bookworm. I've gone, oh, I know we've like talked about this somewhere else before, but I can't make that connection. And I think I'm going to be able to do it a lot better in the visual thinking world as opposed to the text-based world. So I resonate with those 2 points a lot better than the 7 steps to the visualization process.
Yeah. So the thing with this though, time will tell. I feel like there is a lot more friction for creating an image associated with these things that you are capturing than there is with text.
Define friction.
So if you're taking notes on books that you read, and you're reading digital books because it is less friction to create the images, how in the world are you going to take notes on books that you read if you're taking visuals?
Hey, thanks for throwing the jab at digital books there, but I appreciate you.
I mean, we're gonna read Proust and the Squid next. I gotta.
I know. Sorry, but no, I think your point's well made.
I'm not saying that to attack you personally, Cory. It's really just you have to figure out where to increase friction and where to decrease friction. And for me, thinking about, I'm going through and reading Atomic Habits, and I'm going to create a visual now about casting the vote for the type of person that you want to become. That feels like a lot of friction. Are you really going to stop reading to create that visual? And if you do, you're probably not going to read that many books. So what'll happen for a lot of people, I think, if they try to do this is, oh, that's a great idea. I'm totally going to do that. First time they do it, it takes a lot longer than they thought. Next time there's friction there to create the visual. I'm not going to do it this time. And pretty soon they're not creating the visuals anymore. They don't have the atomic notes. And because they just blew past it, having to go back and create them later, they're not going to do that either. So that's the terrible scenario, where this just doesn't click. But that's how it would play out for me, for sure.
I can tell you from a data point of 1, that's me, right? You're absolutely right. It takes so much more time. It takes so much more time to figure out the visuals and try to figure out how to connect the visuals and how to lay them out on the idea boards and the storyboards and all the other boards. You're absolutely right. I don't know how this will end, but I can tell you that I've made 1.5 of these boards at this point, with making all the individual illustrations into them, or at least figuring out what I want the illustrations to be. And it takes way more time, but it just feels so much better, Mike.
I completely agree. I completely empathize with that, by the way, because that's what the mind nodes are for me. Like the mind maps from the book notes, people look at it like, that takes so much time. Like, yeah, but it's awesome.
I know. And I have that same feeling for you. Like, because I never really understood it with you. I was like, mind map's fine. Like, I'm okay with it. But now that I've done this, I'm like, this is great. This is amazing. Okay, chapter 5. Now we're into your world, Mike. I touted you as the mind map guy, at least in my world. You're my mind map guy. So chapter 5 is mapping the mind, and basically he talks about making mind maps, and he lays out another idea called brick road. He lays out another idea called concept maps, and then a fourth idea called idea atlases. Mind maps are the one that you probably are the most familiar with. It's got a central node, and then from that central node, you branch out into subnodes, and then from that subnodes, you branch out into even more subnodes. And it's the traditional, like, as you go down, you get more and more detailed, or as you go out from the center, you get more and more detailed. I think it makes the most sense to go to concept maps next, because concept maps are like mind maps, only they're more hierarchical. I can't say the word, right?
They go from the top down.
Yeah, top down, right? So either top down or left to right. And they're going to flow in a more intentional way. So they're your like org chart for your organization. It's the concept map around your org chart. The how to lay a brick road is interesting to me. So start with a blank page, one idea per tile, size adapts to the content, connect as you go, visuals, mix visuals and text, and then redefine after the fact. I kind of think it's a mind map, or it's a concept map. I don't know. Like, I don't.
It's weird,
know.
Is what it is.
Yeah, like I don't know how to say it, because it's not a road. It's not a brick road. It's like you're building almost like a rock wall.
Yep.
And you're trying to find like what size rocks need to fit into the next one, like an old school rock wall, where you're trying to find the next one, and then you're trying to connect those in the best way. And then the last one, I'm gonna be real honest with you, Mike. I don't get idea atlases. I've read that section twice because I really kind of wanted to understand idea atlases. I would read the 4 steps he gives. Start with the whole, break it into parts, return to the whole, repeat as necessary. I don't have this one. So those are the four core concepts he talks about in mapping the mind, though.
Yeah. I have issues with the yellow brick road, because the instructions with that are like more important topics are supposed to be bigger bricks, right? And I kind of think,
even pick that up.
What's that?
I didn't even pick that up. So that, big ideas to be oversized. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick that up.
The problem is I don't think you know which ideas are big ideas as you're like working through a book, for example. Maybe it's more obvious if you're attending a seminar or something, but I think that would cause me to stumble. It's just like, well, how big should I make this brick? I have no idea. And I have never seen a digital app where you can just create these and, oh, this one should have been bigger, so I'm going to resize it, and then everything else just kind of filters in around it. Like, that's what I love about digital mind mapping, is I can just throw stuff on there and then I can move it around later if I want to. Mm-hmm. And so stuff will snap into the right place. So the yellow brick road is not appealing to me at all. The concept maps, but going from sorry, go ahead.
This is a key difference between you and I too. I'm learning all these differences between you and I. I love the open, flowy nature of it, like MindNode. The fact that it like tries to, in a smart way, put the thing where it thinks it should go bothers the crud out of me. Like I can't stand that it does that. And you like the organization of that. You like the structure of that. That's cool. I like that we're finding our.
Because ultimately the structure should be there in any book that you read, but you kind of have to discover it as you go. So you make arrows and connections between different things, and you group things together, all that kind of stuff.
Which I do, and I did for this book, but I wanted to do it my way. I didn't want to do it the way MindNode made me do it. So that's a big difference. This is fun.
I mean, you can turn off the auto formatting. I think there are other apps like Scapple, made by the people who did Scrivener, where it's literally just you drop the things onto a big infinite canvas. I mean, canvas inside of Obsidian. You could do that sort of thing too.
Yep.
But yeah, like when you're creating a mind map, you don't know what you've got. You're putting all the stuff out there, and the direction doesn't matter, and you should be able to move things around. With a concept map, I don't like that term, concept map. It is an org chart. That's the version of this. And I feel like if I'm going to sit down and develop an idea for something, having all of these tools to choose from can be a little bit paralyzing sometimes.
Agreed.
Like if you're going to map the mind, do you have any idea if you're, okay, I'm going to totally follow this format, I'm going to use all the tools that he describes. How do you choose which scenario you use a mind map versus Yellow Brick Road versus concept map versus the Idea Atlas? And he would probably say trial and error, and I completely 100% agree with that. Find the thing that works. He would probably say, if Yellow Brick Road doesn't work for you, just forget that one and use the ones that do. But again, I guess just my issues with all of the previous learning that I have done around visual thinking being brought into this book, and me having to figure out how to reconcile these things.
Yeah. That's fair. That's very fair. And I'm not defending. I think the way I interpreted chapter 5 was, I'm just trying to give you tools about ways to organize things. And these are 4 tools that I think are pretty good. Picking those is difficult. And I struggled with that as well. Are we okay to go to chapter 6 and go into the next tool?
Let's do it.
All right. So navigation and emergence is chapters 6 through 8. So we're in this chapter is all about a thing he calls the idea integration board. And the best way I can describe the idea integration board is, you've watched that detective show where the detective is in their apartment and they don't have a bed and they sleep on the couch and they've been eating takeout for, a million years, because all the detective shows are all the same. But on the one wall where they've removed all the art, they have the pictures and the articles and the little handwritten notes, and then they've got the red line, the red wire going through all those, and it's showing the connections that how all these ideas connect and how they all go. That's the idea integration board. And Mike, I'm going to say it again. This is another area completely clicked for me. Absolutely 100%. I was like, I get this. This makes so much sense. If I make these notes that are visual on the front and text on the back, and then I put them in there and I figure out how they fit together and how this connects, and then I do the exact same, I use those exact same notes for a different idea, for a different idea, for a different idea. I was like, I'm in. I'm totally 100% in. And at this point, I get 2 action items.
All right.
Okay. So my 2 action items that come from this are, 1, I'm going to do this for this book. I'm going to actually create an idea integration board, or what he would call a book on a page. So I'm going to create a book on a page for this.
Yeah. I'm not sure those are the exact same thing, but I get your action item here.
They may not be the exact same thing, but I'm going to call them the same thing. In my mind, walking away from this book, these are the same thing. Okay. So I'm going to do this for this. And then I think I told you, I'm taking a mini seminary class right now. So I'm reading and thinking a lot about the Bible and different aspects of the Bible. And I was like, I'm doing this for it's called the Institute. I'm doing this for the Institute as well. I'm going to do this idea integration board for the Institute as well. So these are 2 of my action items. I've already done one of them. Book on a page is done. Check. That is why a lot of the other follow-up items, I didn't even remember I was doing those because I was working on this and I was like in that like focused zone out. This is fun. I'm having a ton of fun mode. So I just forgot about all those other things. But let's get back to the idea integration board. There's 4 steps to building it. Pick a topic and gather your pieces. Create your workspace, everything visual, so relationships become apparent. Connect and arrange, create meaning, and don't worry about aesthetics yet. And then keep it alive and review it periodically. So those are the 4, and that's why I say book on a page is a form of this, is because I'm just going to gather all the stuff from the book. I'm going to make them visuals. I'm going to put them in the map. I'm going to figure out how they organize it in together. I think you're technically right that they're 2 different things, but that's the way my brain works.
Yeah,
so,
book on a page doesn't show up until chapter 10, I think.
Okay. I'm going to call it an idea integration board for a book, though.
That's fine. That's fine. So I also have an action item from this chapter, and I'm going to use the term idea integration board because he's given us that. He defines it, by the way, as a visual map of content with superpowers. Mm-hmm. What exactly are those superpowers? Who knows? But I actually don't like the full description of building your idea integration board. I probably agree in principle with 98% of it, but it's those little nitpicky details that drive me crazy. So my action item is to use something completely different that he does not reference in this book at all as my quote unquote idea integration board. Okay. All right. Are you familiar with an app called Sublime?
No, not Sublime Text, just Sublime.
Just Sublime. So
no, I'm not familiar with this.
They sponsored David Perel's How I Write podcast recently.
Okay.
And he mentioned it there, and I went and looked at it, and this is cool. So this is, you can sell me on a broad definition of the idea integration board, but this is the way that I want it to work. I don't want to create all this stuff using Excalidraw inside of Obsidian. With Sublime, you basically have like your cards, like he's describing here, and you put your note there, whatever, you bring in the web page, the YouTube video, whatever, and then it will suggest related items based on all the other Sublime users who have been building these boards on related topics. So think like AI recommendations, but actually good because there are other people who are selecting these things and you know that they're trying to figure out the answers to the same types of questions that you're asking. And I really like this idea where you just put something in there and what are the related pieces and just drop them on the canvas and figure out how all this stuff connects. That's Sublime in a nutshell, with the intention of taking this and then creating something new out of it, right? That's kind of their whole thing. But the place where it differs, I feel like, is once I'm done with that, I am going to chuck that and move on to the next thing and never look back. Yeah, I'm going to be okay with that.
Nope, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to chuck it. I get where you're coming from, but I don't want to chuck it. I want that to be there and I can refine it and make it better.
Yeah. So I'm a recovering perfectionist. Like I get that desire. Yep. I feel like the way to get good at stuff is just do lots of stuff. Yeah. So just me personally, by trying to make it better, I will revise and I will revise and I will revise and I will revise and I will revise. And I have learned the hard way that the real way to get good at something is to quit revising, just move on to the next thing. And 3 years, 5 years from now, you'll come back to that same topic. You'll write about it again, and it will be much better because you've put in enough reps and you've gotten enough feedback loops.
Okay. All right, let's move to chapter 7. This is navigating your knowledge. Basically, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 ideas again here. In navigating your knowledge, he says landmarks. Just like if you're traveling through a city, you may not know the exact address of something, but you know when I get to that mountain, it's about another 5 minutes. Or when I get to that, sculpture, I'm almost there. I need to make 2 lefts and a right. So this idea of landmarks, and he says visuals help you make landmarks more effectively than text. So you've got this landmarks to anchor memory.
I have a hilarious story about that, by the way.
Because
my parents cleared some land in northern Wisconsin and built a cabin. Like they peeled the logs, built the cabin by hand with my aunt and my uncle. And it's like way up there. So there's no traffic lights, there's no gas stations. And they give people directions to get to this cabin. And the address is like 10973 something, East Flowage Road, something like that. And they always would say, once you get onto that main road, just turn right past the tree in the middle of the road. And people are like, how do I know which tree is in the middle of the road? I'm like, oh, you'll know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Those places where go to where you see the cow. What cow? The cow. You know what I mean. There's a flying. There's a pig flying on our one drive that boys love. They talk about the pig all the time. All right. So the second concept here is called latch. It's basically idea entry points: location, alphabet, time, category, and hierarchy. He has the idea compass, which north is basically like what are the parents of this idea. South are what are the children of this idea. East is what challenges this idea or what contradicts it. And then west is what aligns or supports it. If I'm not mistaken, Mike, and I'm not 100% confident on this, I think this is where Excalibrain comes from. So I think he develops Excalibrain from you taking your ideas in the back of your cards and categorizing them in a certain way, and then he pops this into Excalibrain, north, south, east, and west. I don't know that for a fact, but I think that's how it's developed.
Could be. The directions didn't really resonate with me.
Yeah.
I like the concepts, though, like having parent ideas and having children ideas. That's kind of a concept from MindNode, but there's somebody in the library, Bodhi Quirk, has gone big into like the breadcrumbs plugin for establishing those connections and relationships between notes. And I think that's a pretty clever idea. The West versus East kind of loses me. Yeah. I do like the idea of the latch system, by the way, which comes from another book. I think it's Information Anxiety.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Which
Richard Saul Werman is the name of the person I put down.
Yeah, so I actually jotted down this book, and I was like, oh, maybe we should read this for Bookworm. It is the second version that he's got here. It's currently soft cover, and it's available for $50.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's like out of print or what the deal is, but I've heard multiple people refer to this book, which leads to a larger point that I should call out. A lot of the books that Zsolt is referring to, I always said it's Zsolt. I got to get used to Zsolt.
Yeah, Zsolt. Yeah, you said it right.
Okay, a lot of the books that Zsolt refers to are books that I have read and I have enjoyed. I feel like we could sit down and talk about books and have a great time.
I didn't doubt that at all. I was like, I bet you Mike's read this. Right? Like,
yep.
I mean,
most
just
of these,
because of the stuff you've done in your workshops and your classes and stuff. I thought that.
Yeah, I like the idea of the information anxiety though in that latch system. I do want to take a look at this book because I think I have it somewhere, and I won't make you read it with me yet. But he did talk about, though, I forget exactly where this was tied to. I think it was the landmark idea. I had the realization that I sort of have those in my mind maps already with the emoji coding system that I use for like the key ideas and the places where I get inspired, the quotes, the related books, things like that. And it got me thinking how I bring those over into Obsidian. I have the PDF of the mind map, and I also export all the text. And I have those list callouts, which like apply a highlighter color behind them based on the emoji at the beginning of the bullet. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but like all of the key ideas have this gold background. All of the quotes have this purple background. It's something you can do with a plugin. And then I've got the quote book that I've put together, which is basically a query that finds everything that has that quote emoji at the beginning and then the tag quote, I think also. And it got me thinking, could I, because I'm already dropping these landmarks in the notes from the books that I read, could I create separate query pages for those places where I got inspired, the key ideas, where it would just show all of the key ideas that I've collected, just those bullets right? But it would have them sorted on those queries by the title, the source that it came from. I'm going to try and put that together. I think it's going to be a little bit trickier because I don't think I can create it just based on the emoji. I may also have to apply a tag when I am processing these notes in Obsidian. But if I could do that, that could be pretty cool because I could just look at what are all the key ideas, and I could look at the key ideas, from the different books, and just looking at a list of those things, I feel like could be inspiring in terms of what am I going to do with this, or where do I go from here?
Yeah, nice. Very cool.
Oh, I have to ask you about the cave tunnels in this chapter.
Yeah.
Did you like the idea of the cave tunnels and the stories that he told about exploring the caves? Are you like, yeah, let's go? Or were you like me and like, heck no?
So I've been in caves and been in a situation where like the lights are off and you have no clue. Like, because like one of the crazy things about caving is like you get down in there, if you lose your light, you go crazy before you die. Because you can't orient yourself. Like you have no way to figure out which way's up, down, left, right, or anything like that. And they say you'll go nuts before, and then you end up like just randomly walking and tripping over something, and then now you're completely done. So it's like I've been in there, and he's describing this, and I was like, oh yeah, you definitely needed breadcrumbs. You definitely needed a rope. Like that's why you attach a rope to yourself, and you never, try to just know the routes because you get mixed up and turned around. Yeah, it was a good story though. Okay, so chapter 8, the serendipity machine. Now, Mike, he loses me here a little bit. He talks about the double bubble map, which is a way to compare and contrast. I like the idea of the double bubble map. So the double bubble map is essentially two mind maps that are really small put together. And if you imagine that the two central nodes are the core ideas, there's a row of nodes in between those that are common. So these are things that they share or that are similar. And then on the outsides, or on the other side, I guess, of the central node, are the things where they differ. And it's a way to like force you to think about two ideas and compare and contrast two ideas. Good. I'm in for that. Will I ever use it? I have no idea. But like the idea, like the concept gets me. He also talks about the idea mixer board. And at this point I went, hold on. We got too many boards. Like I can't keep track of all the. I got the idea integration board. I got the mixer board. I got the idea atlas. I'm getting overwhelmed here. Like I'm getting over. There's too many visualizations. And maybe if I advance to a certain level of expertise, all of these boards make sense to me, and I understand the reason for all these boards. But this is the point. So chapter 8 is the point where I broke and I went, hold on. We've got too many boards. Like I just can't do this much of visualization stuff. And that's okay. Like we can figure that out. But that was my take on this. This is where I broke. You broke a lot earlier than me, but this is where I broke.
I did. I actually really like the idea of the double bubble map. Basically what you've got is concept 1 on one side, concept 2 on the other side, and then in between you have bubbles for the things that they have in common, and you have lines from those concepts to those things that they share, and then lines away towards the outside for things that are different. I feel like that could be a useful tool in certain scenarios for finding the overlap between the different things. The idea mixer board, I agree. We've got all the great boards at this point, and I think it's unnecessarily complicated for me, at least at this point, where really you're not sure what you think about this thing. Grab a canvas, drop some stuff on there, and start playing. See how things connect. I don't care if you call it an idea integration board. I don't care if you call it a mind map. I don't care if you call it an idea mixer. I don't care if you call it a concept map. Those are unnecessary details. Just put it on the workbench. No rules, no boundaries, just a couple of things. That's the key, I think, is the constraints in terms of the number of things that you are playing with. Not, they've got to flow in this particular way, or they got to be organized in this particular way. Just play with it.
Yep. I could not agree more. That makes complete sense. Complete and total sense. Okay. I'm good to go to the last section. So the last major section is chapter 9, building through loops. Are you good with that?
Yep.
Okay, he is. So in building through loops, he's going to, in chapter 9, he's going to talk about trains of thought. And he compares this to pools of thought. And again, Mike, he gets me. This makes total sense to me because I think what I've been doing most, if not all of my life, is having pools of thought. I've not done a great job at linking trains of thought. The exception to this is, let's see if you go back. I don't know if you and I have ever talked about this, but let's see if you go back. Do you know a program or an app called Voodoo Pad?
Yes.
Okay. The best
It's not around
time
anymore.
No. The best time I've ever, or like the most effective I've ever been at trains of thought was with VoodooPad. I made my own wiki around the literature that was associated with my dissertation. And it was because I had all of this stuff and I had to figure out a way to get it like organized. And I had to figure out a way how things connected and why they connected and what arguments I was trying to make. And this argument develops from these two. Between VoodooPad and just note cards, right? Like VoodooPad and note cards, those were the two ways I did this. I don't do this inherently though. Like I don't do this naturally. I only do it when I get like overwhelmed with, ideas and like there's so much I can't process. But I think I could do this more often, as I could do this trying to develop trains of thought. You talk about this all the time in terms of like creating. Take the things you're learning and turn it into something, a blog post, a YouTube video, a course, or whatever it is. So I've heard you talk about this all the time. And all what you're doing is you're developing trains of thought. You're taking pools of thought, you're pulling them into trains of thought, and then you're communicating that train of thought to somebody else, which helps you develop the train of thought. So I like this idea. Like this kind of opened up a lot of stuff for me in terms of thinking. Were you familiar with the NOMA method? Because that's from linking your thinking, isn't it, Nick Milo?
I'm familiar with the term. He didn't actually define it though, so
He didn't.
I don't remember exactly what it is.
Basically, he calls it as be a thing finder, be a link finder, be an active thinker, and then understand its relevance. But I don't remember at all. I even looked this up, right, when I was doing things. I don't remember at all what NOMA means. It means something. It's got a thing. Well, I could Google it real quick, but I don't really care that much. But it means. I'm just saying it means something. Then the last one that or I guess there's two more. Enduring questions. I really liked enduring questions. What are these things, and can I link all of the thoughts that I'm having or all the trains of thoughts to these enduring questions? I really like that idea. I actually have my next action item coming out of here is what are my enduring questions? What are these things that we've called them true norths before. We've called them these other core values would be another word I think that would tie into here. I like this idea of enduring questions. It's just a different way to think about those same ideas. And then finally, he gives an example of how he links things and his prompts, caught my interest, source, answer. I think he's using these with DataView in Obsidian. I'm pretty sure he is, and that's how he's forming some of his other queries and other things with Obsidian. So that's the nature of Chapter 9. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I like the idea of tying things back to questions. However, I don't like the idea of my 12 favorite questions because it's actually my 12 favorite problems by Richard Feynman.
Okay.
Little nuance there, which is probably not important for 99% of people. So I don't really blame Zsolt for framing it that way. But when I read it, I was like, wait a second. No, problems are really things that I want to address. But the idea is you've got this note with these 12 favorite problems, which I have in Obsidian. And they're basically things that you consider over the long term. And eventually you stumble on something that is an answer to one of those problems. And my problems are all framed as questions. So it's really just in reference to the concept and the original source, because Richard Feynman was the one who came up with this idea, and I think it's pretty brilliant.
Yep.
So mine are like, how can I make things easier or simpler? How can I live with more meaning? How can I live out my life theme? How can I create more and consume less? Who are my true fans? What do they want? How can I better lead and serve my family, wife, and kids? How can I have more fun? How can I set my kids up for success? What about this would make a good story? What can I learn here? How can I leave my dent in the universe? How can I focus on what really matters? And there's different application of this where you're getting more specific and you're saying, how do I write a killer thesis or whatever? So the real thing I think that he's talking about is don't just capture these ideas into these pools as you describe them, but connect them back to something that is a little bit more, I was going to say tangible. That's not the right word though. Like it has a little bit more weight to it. It's something that you actually are turning over in your brain actively, not just, oh, hey, new shiny. That sounds important. I better capture that so that I can do nothing with it, at some point in the future.
Well, welcome to my problem.
Yeah.
Because I think I do that. Like I think I do that. So
okay. I mean that. Yeah. So I really think there's some good stuff in here, but I actually don't have a whole lot written down from this particular chapter either. Just the favorite questions as the anchor. I think that's kind of interesting. And reading a book is like opening a box of Lego. I think that's a cool metaphor. This is where he introduces the idea or the definition of visual zettelkasten, which is a network of these linked sketches where each visual captures one idea. And this is where I understand conceptually what he's driving at there. And I'm just like, I am not going to do this.
Got it.
That makes sense. But more power to you, Cory Hickson, who is.
I have done it, and for at least for the time being, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
All right. Chapter 10, create thinking loops with storyboards. So he would say, and I didn't remember this until I just looked at my notes for this chapter 10. He would say a book on a page is a storyboard then. It's telling the story of the book using these other concepts and using these other ideas. He gets into storytelling and says that we should move from and then to but therefore. So and then just continues and it feels like a run-on story, run-on sentence, and then. He goes, and those are boring. We want to use but therefore. So this was the problem, but I did this, therefore this happened, or this was better, or whatever it might be. So he's gonna kind of go off on a little bit of a tangent there, I think, and this idea of stories and like what good stories are. Then he's gonna come back and he's going to basically tie into like some philosophy stuff, ethos, pathos, logos. And he's talking about basically storyboards and how do we create these. The book on a page concept, I will tell you, Mike, I love the idea of the book on the page concept. So he does it. He gives an example for Atomic Habits. And you see essentially his whole thing come together in chapter 10, where he's got the Atomic Habits cover. And then he's got all of these small little, I'm going to call them modules. They're visual notes, right? And they're either 2x2 or 1x1 or 1x2 or 2x2 or I think I said it already, 3x2, whatever it might be. And he's putting all these together in like side by side in the different major sections of the book. So what I did was I created one of these for Sketch Your Mind as a way to practice this and say like, does this actually work for me? I'm not nearly as refined as he is. Like if you look at his looks almost like 4 infographics that are stacked together, and the infographic walks you through the core premises of Atomic Habits and how you do it. Mine's much more, here's chapter 1, here are visuals for the core ideas in chapter 1, here's chapter 2, here's core ideas for the visuals in chapter 2, and then I link all of the chapters together in their parts. And I explain how we transition from one chapter to the next. I wish I could show it easily to everybody that's listening anyhow, because it just resonated with me. Like this fits so much better with me. It's not text-based notes. It's not a mind map, which is still in my world mainly text-based. These ideas just kind of popped off the page to me. And even like as we're doing the show and I'm reviewing my notes and like talking about it, it just feels so much better. It feels so much more natural. Text now becomes when I can't figure out a way to visualize it, or when there is no good visual for it. That's what text becomes, as opposed to the default of what I've been doing it, where it's just throw a paragraph of text in there. Just throw a paragraph of text in there. So this works with me. Again, check. Yay, Zsolt. I'm in.
Yeah. So a couple things I want to address. The and then or but therefore like that you were kind of talking about, that's kind of like the elements of good storytelling. And I think that's a really powerful idea. Again, there are books written on telling better stories, which I think we've read one at least. Maybe we come back to that topic at some point. But I think I wanted to share something that I think is actually a really cool way to start practicing this. Are you familiar with Rory's story cubes?
I am familiar with Rory's story cubes. We have some of those at the house.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're basically these dice that you roll, and then you get the pictures and you tell a story. And if you just sit down and roll them yourself as a single player and tell a story, it's very easy to just and then. But when you are, one of the things we do with our one-on-ones, sometimes my kids will bring these and we'll tell a story. We'll each tell our own version of the story. Then we'll do one together where we roll the dice and you pick one of the dice and you tell the next part of the story. And when you have to go back and forth like that, that's when you realize if you just keep saying and, it gets boring. But when you like take it in unexpected directions, some pretty hilarious stuff happens.
Yeah.
So these are pretty cool. If you want to get better at storytelling and you just want, or if you just want something fun to do with your kids, this is this is cool. And they have a bunch of different sets. They got like the basic ones. They've got a Harry Potter one. They've got a Star Wars one. So you can incorporate, different characters into it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. In terms of the storyboards themselves, I don't know that I really want to do anything with this. Again, like there's a couple things that are useful here, but get your formula out of my face.
Okay. I mean, that's valid.
I like the take a stand, put a bold personal claim in your story, but I've learned that just from publishing enough stuff on the internet.
Yeah.
And the three different modes that he talks about there, I think are powerful. The ethos, the authority, that's when you're talking about, you're talking through authority or expert opinion. Pathos is emotion or storytelling, and then logos is the logic. I think those are like nice to know ways that you can tell your story, but I don't think that you're checking a box somewhere. I'm in this mode now. It's just, helping you see that storytelling is multifaceted if you're not familiar with that before. But I will push back a little bit here and say that maybe, the visual stuff is the thing that actually frees you to think certain ways in a way that text has not been able to. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is value in learning to communicate your ideas via text. And you could argue that a lot of the stuff that I create is visual first. My primary social media platform is YouTube. I create video courses. We now do video podcasts. Yep. Totally different than I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write this article. However, having published thousands of podcast episodes, having made probably thousands of videos for video courses, I can tell you the basis of everything, even though I am a visual person, is writing.
I mean, he wrote a book.
He did write a book. He made videos first, probably, because there's a lot of video resources in here. And he does have a workshop, which I think I might have signed up for at one point, because I have access to this Explain Ideas Visually community that I think he runs, but I haven't. I honestly, if I did sign up for it, I got busy and I never actually went through any of the materials. Like, oh, that's actually a cool idea. I should explore that. And then it wasn't until Cory forced me to read a book before recording a podcast that I actually did it. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. All right. So now we're going to go into chapter 11, which is Flip the Habit and Free the Genie. I did not resonate with this one all that much, Mike. Like this chapter, he's basically saying sketch first, write second, that knowledge is a genie. And when we only use text, we trap it in a bottle, and that this whole process that he's been describing to us unleashes the genie and basically allows us to develop this more advanced knowledge system. He has a figure in here that's a shift from visual thinking as a tool to as a system. I agree with that. That concept makes sense to me, is instead of just doing a sketch note for the sake of the sketch note, do the sketch note as a Lego piece of another puzzle, or do icons as a Lego piece of another puzzle. I'm on board with that. I think he tries to round out the book by saying, like, this is, I don't like the reference to unleashing the genie out of the bottle. Like, it's going to be magic. You're going to do these visualizations, and then all of a sudden magic is just going to start to flow out of you. I still think it's going to be a lot of work. And I can tell you from having done it, it's a boatload of work. Like it's not anything easy. I can also tell you though, that like I find joy in the process, and it actually helped me connect ideas. So that's valuable. Will that last? How will that last when I think about it in the context of everything? Like, my ideal would be to do all of the bookworm books that we've ever read and try to make connections between all of the bookworm books that we've ever read and see how that would go. That is a ton of work, though. And it's like, am I going to get enough out of the amount of hours I would have to put into that? So, I mean, he talks about a living knowledge system beyond the single sketch, atomic visual notes, and then think in space are like the 3 core ideas that he has behind that. So, I mean, chapter 11, it's okay. I get his point, but I could give or take it.
So let's just pull on that thread a little bit more. Okay. So let's assume that you have unlimited time and unlimited resources to create this visual zettelkasten of all of the books that we've read. Do you even have clarity on the path forward to, like, how do you even start with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Okay. So how do you connect something from Atomic Habits with something from Tiny Habits?
Okay. So the first thing I have to do is I have to get all of the core ideas from Atomic Habits down as visual atomic notes.
Yep.
So I need to get all those down, right? Then the thing I would do is I would start at the most general level and I would say bookworm books, and I would create, I don't know if he wants to call it an idea mixer board or an idea integration board or whatever. Like, I don't really care what it is, but it would be a blank canvas. And I would say, okay, what's the idea that's popping out of my head? And this is where I like his idea in his framing of the concept of emergence. Mm-hmm. What's popping out for me? Okay. It's probably the most recent thing we've read. So therefore, those things are going to pop in. I'm going to say, this is a cool idea. This is a cool idea. And then I'm immediately going to say, how does this link to other things? Oh, well, this idea links to this other idea over here. I'll give you an example. Side note, has nothing to do with bookworm, just has to do with personal. Discipline December. I'm trying to be a more disciplined human, right? When it comes to certain areas of my life. So Discipline December. The first place I go to, and this is actually what got me started on, this actually might resonate with me, is Jocko Willink's Discipline is Freedom. Okay. Well, that links also to Ryan Holiday's Discipline is Destiny, right? And then that also links to Toxic Grit, where she talks about discipline. So like, and that was me thinking for like maybe 2 minutes about like all these different things coming together. Now, I didn't have the visuals developed for it, but I've since developed a visual for Discipline is Freedom, right? And you know, like, so that's how this stuff comes together to me. And I think it's like just intentional sessions that are idea integration sessions or storyboarding sessions or whatever it might be. And you just let it emerge as it flows out. Like that's how I think I would use this if I was going to do this more intense.
Yeah. See, that's the thing that feels like quite the hill to climb, because I'm exporting the mind map. I'm bringing it in as text. I'm going through and I'm saying, is any of this worthy of being its own separate idea? You know what I do when something is? I highlight the text, bang, bang, double brackets, and it's done. I don't have to do anything else with that. Eventually, I can go open that note if I discover it again, and I can use the unlinked mentions. I can see the places that it connects. So I think for me, going back to the idea of the 4D zettelkasten, I am getting the benefit of the fourth dimension without the friction of the fourth dimension in a lot of ways. And that is not because I am anti-visual, as we have described. I am very visual, just using it complementary as opposed to everything's going to be built off of these visuals. And that's the part that's hard for me. I actually like the idea of, he talks about embracing the messiness. He talks about becoming an ambidextrous thinker. So thinking, being able to switch back and forth between the mediums. And I agree with him 100% that visual thinking is your original interface. So, like, I want to defend him a little bit here with how he ends this book. I actually think this is pretty strong. But the takeaway for me is not build a visual zettelkasten. It's use visual thinking as part of your idea development process, which, again, I've been actively thinking about how do I do that for years. And I've kind of, I guess, turned into old man yells at cloud at this point. With the things that work for me.
Well, I don't think you're there. I think for someone like you who has an established system that's working and you're developing creative content from that system and whatever other content you want to make, it's a bigger ask
Yeah.
than it is for me, who hasn't, like, I don't have these robust patterns yet. I don't have these paths in the road that I'm already traveling in. I'm still figuring out what those paths are. So it's an easier ask for me, and it's one that resonates with me in an interesting way. So that's a good thing. I don't think this is bad at all, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So he has 2 additional things: thinking in stereo, the day I missed my father's birthday, and then epilogue. I'm going to lump these 2 together just to round out the book. The thing in stereo is basically his dad throws an idea at him and he's like, why does it have to be both? Or why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't it be both? And then that's where he got the spark to go, oh, front is visual, back is, text, yada, 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 and all that stuff. So there's a cool story. It was a good story. The epilogue is basically him describing like, hey, I used AI to write this book and I wrote it in 6 weeks. And, here are all these ideas that came around with it. Overall, I don't think it really ties that much into the visual thinking process or system that he develops for us, but it was cool. It was good to get to know him a little bit
dude,
more.
this is the best part of the book right here. What he says regarding AI is spot on. More people need to talk like this about AI. So the epilogue is really the thing that I jotted down in the notes, and I agree with him that identity isn't static. Thinking in space, not just in lines. But a couple things that he talks about with AI, which are worth calling out here, is that AI, number one, cannot fix unclear thinking. And that is a justification and a reason for figuring out how you are going to be an ambidextrous thinker using both text-based and visual thinking methods.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He also talks about how AI thrives on iteration. And I think it was his mom maybe who was talking about, can you imagine if you would have had to write this book back in the day with a quill pen? There were no revisions. You wrote the thing and it was done.
Yeah.
Prior to the printing press, right? And then the other thing is that your voice demands your input. So you got to create something. There has to be an output of what you've collected here. So I think, this is obviously a footnote on the main idea of the book, but this section just further solidifies that I like this guy. We think about these things the same way.
You might have just hit on something that I would have never gotten if we didn't have this conversation. You have to create something. The visual thing is the creation that I need to that is why it's worth pushing the boulder up that hill. That is why it's worth doing that thing and taking the time to do it. And then what does that look like? So I don't create for a living in terms of like you do, So this creation thing gets me.
Yeah, we discussed this earlier. You get to create. I have to create.
Yeah, exactly. But I create these. Now the real question is, if I want to become a creator, like a full-time creator, would this get in the way of me doing that? Like, am I spending too much time on creating these visuals and not creating the things that I need to create as a creator? So that's an interesting thought that I would have never had on my own.
Nice.
All right, Mike. Are you ready to go to action items?
Are you ready to go to action items?
Oh, I am ready to go to action items. Yes, sir. Because I'm going to just slide over here on the place on my board. Remember my board that I've created for this book? Uh-huh. And so they're not in our notes doc, but they're on this board right here. So I had 3. Create a visual PKM for the Sketch Your Mind book. Idea board, I don't know what you call it, idea integration board, whatever you want to call it. Or a storyboard. I did that. Yay. I'm super happy with that. So I've got an action item that's already done. It took some hours though, like without a doubt. Like it took time, but it was worth it. The next one is create one for the Storyline Institute, which is the seminary thing that I'm doing. I'm working through that right now, but that is much more of a slow burn. Like I'm going to build that one probably for the rest of my life, assuming I continue to do these visual things. So I'm playing around with that one. So that's number 2. And then the third one is develop my enduring questions, which I've started to write those down. I want to continue to refine those. So I've got some ideas for those. I want to refine those. And then what I'd love to do is compare those to like True North and some of the other things I've done, core values, and how to do those things all match up and line up. But I'm not going to commit to that. So those are my 3. You have 3 here as well. What are your 3?
Yeah, so mine is to check out Sublime as an IIB. What the heck does that mean? Integration board.
Idea integration board. Yep.
And spoiler alert, I've kind of already done this. I did a screencast online module on Sublime because when I heard about it on the How I Write podcast, I started playing around with it. I'm like, this is really cool. This is the ideal version of this stuff for me. So I'm going to continue to play with that, hopefully publish something as a result of experimenting on Sublime. I'm also going to create queries inside of Obsidian for the different emoji icons. If I can, I got to figure out that system. And I am going to check out this workshop. I want to dive deeper into these concepts. I feel like this book scratched the surface, but there's so much more. And I have no doubt that Zsolt...
There you go. Good job.
I hesitate every time I say it. I feel like I'm going to say it wrong every time. Has really studied this stuff and has 10 to 100 times more material on this topic than is in this book.
Just go to his visual thinking YouTube channel. It's just full
I
of
went
visual
to
thinking.
Excalidraw. He's got a whole bunch of reference videos in the description for the plugin. They're all broken down into these categories, and a lot of them are just visual thinking stuff. Yep. There's hundreds of videos there.
Yeah.
I haven't had the chance to look at them yet, but I'm going to explore that.
He has gone wild on this. It's actually really interesting if it resonates, if it clicks with you.
But he's done 15 versions of the workshop. So at this point, I'm sure that's really dialed in. I would love to see what that looks like.
You won't be surprised if you go to the website. It's got a big visual that tells you everything he does in the workshop.
What do you know?
What do you know? All right, we got to go to style and rating. Mike, I'm not going to take very long here. This is a 5-star book for me. Hands down, without a doubt, 5-star book. Boom, done. I'm not even going to say anymore. I like the book. I think the concepts resonate. 5 stars.
Okay. Well, you're going to make me take longer because I'm not going to give it 5 stars. I will give it 4 stars. To be honest, I found myself resisting this book a lot as I was reading it for reasons shared in the podcast. I thought I was going to crank through this so quick, but the way that the stuff was presented, I had to wrestle with it quite a bit, and I've drawn different conclusions. I'm not going to say he's wrong with a lot of different things. As I mentioned, I feel like he and I are cut from the same cloth, and we would have a great time if we ever got to sit down and chat. That being said, the way that he framed things just didn't quite click for me, but I think the larger points that he's making are extremely valid.
Agreed.
And I would recommend that people who are particularly interested in developing their ideas, they want to be more productive or creative, or they're interested in personal knowledge management in general, this is a good book. I would just recommend that people, as they pick this one up, do not go into it assuming that the system that is going to be presented is one that you should be following verbatim.
Agreed.
If it clicks, great. You're excited about it, do it. I mean, ultimately, follow the energy. But if he talks about idea integration boards and you're like, ugh, then just skip that part.
Agreed. Agreed. Like my version of that is, I don't feel the need to make all of my own icons. So it's I'm not going to hand draw my own icons. I'm going to go figure out what is the one that captures the idea I have and then import it into as an icon in for me. So that's my version of that. Okay, so Mike, let's put Sketch Your Mind on the shelf. What's next?
Next, we are going to convince Cory once and for all that analog is better, and we are going to read The Proust and the Squid by Marianne Wolf.
It's never going to happen, but okay. I'll read Proust and the Squid, but I'm not going to read analog books consistently. But we'll give it a shot, right? We'll give it a shot.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
What's after that?
After that is going to be Hacking the Human Mind by Richard Shotton and Michael Aaron Flicker.
Alrighty.
Mike, do you have any gap books between now and our next episode?
I do. I have required reading as a gap book because we are going to be talking to an author who has a book coming out for the Focus podcast. That author is my friend Chris Bailey, and he has sent me his new book, Intentional: How to Finish What You Start. So I must finish this before we interview him. Well, I guess I don't have to, but that's the way I'm wired. I'm going to read the whole book before we talk to him in a couple of weeks. It's going to be out early January for people who are interested in this one. You know what? Let's do Chris a solid. Let's all go pre-order Intentional.
Okay.
I helped him with the course that he put together, which is sort of complimentary to this. And so I know a lot of the ideas that he's going to talk about in this book and some of the frameworks that he talked about in that course are fundamental to this book. I haven't read this book yet, but I highly expect that this will be the best book that he has written to date.
Okay. Those are good words. Those are good words. I don't have any Gap books. I'm not going to have any Gap books. It's the end of the semester. We are in the last week of the semester. I'm not taking on anything. Will I probably listen to something? It's not reading. It's listening.
Not reading. Let's be real.
I know. Will I probably listen to something? Yes,
I jest,
will.
by the way. I jest. Every time I say that, I get feedback. And I understand, like, some people have to read audiobooks. Do what you got to do. If you've got a chance to scan your eyes down the page, you're going to retain more information that way.
Yep. I agree. I agree completely. But I don't have any Gap books. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening. If you're interested, we have a pro show. You can get longer ad-free pro show for the episode. Today was about 15 minutes. We talked about our holiday gift ideas. There's a bootleg that's released more quickly. It's about a week or two early. There's a bookworm wallpaper. Mike has put his reading masterclass in there for the pro members. It's $7 a month. You can go to patreon.com/bookwormfm. And we just appreciate everybody who does that. Everybody's a Patreon member and helps us just with all the little costs that come up with making the show.
Absolutely. Thank you. If you are reading along with us, pick up The Proust and the Squid by Marianne Wolfe, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.